Hello there, everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of my team career mode. This episode, we are in Austria at the Red Bull Ring. Super fun track and one that I really do enjoy. And to kick off proceedings, we will be doing the autocross event here at the Red Bull Ring. I'm fairly certain it is in the Ferrari. But yeah, good way to warm up to the track a little bit, have some fun, and most importantly, really, earn that acclaim and cash. Now, the autocross events in general don't tend to be too difficult in terms of getting a gold medal and reaching that time objective, but still tricky. Oh, as we ended up going a little bit wide there, heading in to turn 4. But we are able to tidy things up a little bit and continue on. Hopefully we didn't lose too much time there. Now through 6 and 7. Car bouncing a little bit all over the place. Now over a minute mark. I can't remember exactly what the time required was, but we continue pushing forward into sector 3 now, through the chicane, trying to transfer the weight of the car by using the brakes as much as possible. Now down in towards the final corner, still snaking around, making sure that we don't get too much wheel spin on the exit, just enough to kick it out wide as we cross the line, and it will be a gold medal. Now, as we often do, quick look back at the previous round, and we actually got 10th position at Silverstone, getting some points, or a point, on the board, as we still continue to chase down AlphaTauri for position 8 in the Constructors. Now, heading into today, we have some new upgrades, which is always nice, but even more critically for this weekend, look at that weather forecast. Rain for the sprint, and some possible rain as well in the race. So that's going to make things very intriguing. As for qualifying though, it's going to be sunny and dry. Moving on now to our best lap. Or our final lap at least of Q1, hopefully our best lap. Still some time to find on the board, I think, as we fly through turn 1, leading on to the first of many straights here at the Red Bull Ring, up through turn 2, leading to the uphill awkward hairpin to the right. Hopefully Sonoda, who's on an outlap, elects not to hold us up here as we get a pretty decent exit. Very awkward camber there, but we've found a 10th and a half and a bit of slipstream as well, which is always nice. Firing it down now into turn 3. Sonoda gives us the corner. Very generous of him as we wait for the first sector split to pop up. And hopefully it will be an improvement. It's about 2.5 tenths at the moment, and finding a bit of time to those ahead as well, using every single inch of track as we possibly can. Flicking it to the right and to the right again once more, down into 5th gear, activating DRS. As we cross the line, it's about a 3/10 improvement. It's good enough for P15, but with 30 seconds remaining in the session, we'll have to wait and see if it has been bested, and I can only assume it probably has. We will await confirmation though, as it's a bit of a car park leading in to the hairpin. We are going to have to scroll down, of course, and hoping that we did make the cut-off, but unfortunately it will be P20 for the sprint. Oscar Piastri lagging a little bit behind in P21. On now though, straight away into the formation lap for the sprint, and as you can see, the conditions are a little bit worse than they were for qualifying. Full extreme wet conditions, visibility low, and the grip of course quite low as well. We are in P20, of course, our teammate behind 5 red lights, and we're out of the gates, and we'll try and find as many positions as possible. This sprint is a good chance, especially in the wet, to try and catch the AI off guard and get the best start possible for the Grand Prix. We mount the sausage curb into the turn 1. I was going to say Q1. Definitely not Q1 anymore. Bit of an awkward exit, but we're up into P12. Ocon up next in the Alpine. The AI is slow into the hairpin. We show the nose, but unfortunately we just lose a little bit of time in doing that. Yellow flag has been thrown, but the green in response. Vettel behind in the Aston Martin. He's going to be dangerous. And we'll have to see just how much pace we actually do have in these conditions. Running a bit of extra downforce where we can. Increase the tire pressures as well. Played around with the diff too, just to try and maximize our performance here in the wet without being too slow if the conditions are to dry up either here or on the Sunday. As for now though, Ocon's not pulling too far ahead, and if the cars ahead do elect to battle, I'm sure that we're going to be in with a good chance to find even more ground in this race. But it's only 12 laps, so very short in distance, and it'll really be over before it even begins. I think though off the back of this good start, we'll want to just, at the very least, hold on to these positions. A decent first lap, and we don't want to concede any positions in return. There are some faster cars behind, so we'll have to see how we go in holding track position. Ocon somehow behind has gotten a 5-second penalty, so that's quite intriguing. 5/10 behind as well, threatening us for track position as Lando Norris has DNF'd, retiring from the sprint. Pretty sure he started in last position as well, so a bit of a disaster for him today, as the safety car now peels in, and we get 2 laps of green flag running to the end of the sprint. An opportunity perhaps to try and catch Ricciardo here, but our exit out of the first corner, not ideal. We go wide, running over that sausage curb. Probably lucky to get away with no floor damage, but nonetheless, any opportunity we had to maybe have a sneaky look down the inside at the hairpin has been forfeited. Huge gap behind to Ocon. Now has a 10-second penalty, so I don't know if there's something weird happening there with Ocon. I can't remember exactly, but nonetheless, no pressure behind. It's all about full focus up front. Kind of hoping that Ricciardo battles with Magnussen here, gives us an opportunity perhaps to find an opening. We have 60% of our battery pack remaining as well, so we can be aggressive on these closing laps. No DRS, of course, due to the wet conditions, but our pace has actually been okay here. Move forward though, the end of the sprint, lap 12, Ricciardo has pulled ahead, a 3-second gap, and Ocon not threatening behind. And Aston Martin to our outside has DNF'd as well, but it will be P9, so we have a good starting position for the race.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg, and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of Turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And a very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Russell, Hamilton, Sergio Perez, and Mick Schumacher, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Mir and Alex Albon, Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Yuki Tsunoda, Ans Latifi, Bottas, Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly and Sebastian Vettel, Norris, Joe, Stroll. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Charles Leclerc completes today's grid order. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. Anthony Davidson, a very warm welcome to you as you join me in the commentary box for today's event. Can I get your take on Ferrari? What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Here we are then on the grid for the Austrian Grand Prix, position 9. Apparently the game's telling me. Maybe I'm missing something somewhere along the lines. Maybe I have the memory of goldfish. I'm not too sure. Anyway, it does genuinely feel like we have a good opportunity for some points in this race, especially if the rain that was shown on the forecast earlier does actually play out. Who knows what could happen? If we play our cards right, we might be able to find a big bag of points and try to hunt down AlphaTauri up ahead, or at least start that hunt, because we are starting to get close to that halfway point of the season, if not surpassing it. So we don't have too much time to play with. It is position 9 to start off here. That must have been where I finished the race, so I was mistaken. I thought I was P8. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're still up there. As we look to try and get some heat into these tyres, lighting up the rears as we form the grid alongside Ricciardo in the McLaren and Magnussen up ahead in the Haas. We'll be trying to find a gap where we can as we launch off the line, starting on the mediums. Decent launch, decent traction. But we can't really find much of an opportunity up ahead for an overtake. We do find Ricciardo, though, around the outside. Schumacher as well gives us the line, and now it's a drag race down to the hairpin. Who will break later? Surely it'll have to be us if we want to move down the inside, but we actually concede a little bit there. Schumacher went very deep, making contact, I believe, either with Hamilton or perhaps even his teammate. Saw some of that front wing fly off. Can only assume he'll need to pit, as that damage will slow him down for the remainder of the race if it goes unchecked. And whilst it wasn't the best ever start, considering the cars that are up ahead, we've been able to hold our ground, and those behind haven't caught us either, so not too much to complain about. A little bit sideways through turn 6, but we corrected into 7. A little bit loose on exit, and Ricciardo shows the nose, but he'll just lift off the accelerator. Schumacher will enter the pits. Compromises our run just a touch, but could have been a lot more awkward than it was. That will promote us into P7. So we find a couple of positions there on lap 1. Let's move on now to lap number 3. Magnus is still within touching distance, 9/10 ahead, but just as DRS is going to be enabled, the VSC has been deployed due to debris, and that will slow down the field. It's actually been elevated now into a full course safety car. And as the title may have suggested, that probably won't be the only safety car in this race, making things very, very interesting. Anyway, we move on now to the end of the caution period, lap number 7. As we cross the line, we get a good run out of the final corner, and we look to make a move here on Magnussen, who locks the brakes. And we just stick it around the outside. So a really good move there on the restart. And that was my strategy, just to try and line him up. Get a really clean exit out of that final corner. Use our battery. And we get the move done against a far superior car. P6. Can't say we've really found ourselves in this position before. Now actually P5 on lap 8. We know there's going to be a lot of pressure from behind, though. His yellow flags are thrown again. And at turn 4, there has been some sort of incident holding up a big pack of cars. Safety car has been deployed. That's the second here in the race and the third of the weekend. Safety car's definitely going to need some new tyres after the weekend, the way it's charging around at the moment. On to lap 11 though for the restart. Conditions starting to look more and more overcast as we look to get another clean exit, but against the Mercedes, surely we don't have the pace to make an overtake here onto Hamilton, who defends the inside line. We show the dummy down the inside. No, it's not a dummy. It's an actual move, and we stick it. Very aggressive. What a move that was. Position 4 now. Absolutely insane. Can't complain too much about that. But, as I mentioned, the sky is becoming overcast, and my radio was glitched during this race. I could not activate the radio no matter what I tried, so I could not get as many weather updates as I would have liked, making this race quite challenging. Basically, the IRL version of me just not having my radio work inside the car. It made things pretty difficult. Normally when conditions are variable, I like to really check the weather forecast every lap or every second lap, but I just could not do that here. So I had to have my full faith in the engineers that they were going to make the right call at the right time and give me the updates as they were required, as Hamilton flies it back down the inside into turn 9. But through turn 10, we do concede, as that Mercedes has much better outright pace. DRS, though, now has been enabled as Magnussen looks to go down the inside. We try and hold it around the outside, but he doesn't really give us too much room. We go wide there. Didn't really want to, not only because I feel bad for extending track limits, but also the sausage curb can actually do quite significant floor damage. But we do get away with it on that occasion as Magnussen once again goes down the inside. We tried to line up a switch back through the exit of the hairpin, but unfortunately he is too far ahead. That's us into position 6 now, and Lance Stroll is out of the session. So that is the third safety car on lap 14 of this race, as the team is making a call for a strategy change. I can't see it though because of the bug. So I am assuming they want me to go into the hards now, just to extend that window a little bit under the safety car. But I have a plan of my own. I am going to back in the fact that the rain is coming soon and have trust in that variable forecast and just hold on to track position here. We've had a lot of running under the safety car, so my tires surely aren't that worn. As you can see, only just reaching about 30% now, and I've stretched them to mid-50s in the past, and they've felt decent. So I'm just going to hold position, not pit. And I'm into position 1 now. The rest of the field going into the hard tire compound, despite imminent rain, one would expect. And we now lead the pack on lap 16. Very, very foreign position that I find myself in here. Going to lead my first ever lap in Formula 1, as the Aston Martin safety car will pull away. And this was a very, very strange feeling. Controlling the field, controlling the pace. Our rear's a little bit cold, and that could be very dangerous, as you might be able to see sprinkles of rain now coming down the halo. So conditions are changing, and I think that will play into our hands. We just need to survive for a handful more laps, wait for the wet conditions, then we can come in and fit the intermediate tires as required. But we get a clean restart here, overtake across the line onto lap 17. Again, we are in position 1, leading this Grand Prix. Question will be though, for how long? Tire wear becoming an issue, greasy conditions coming up. It'll be a matter of survival for the next few laps. Perez behind, he's on an alternate strategy, currently running the medium compound tires, as the engineer just reminds us that the track is in fact getting a little bit wetter as those clouds drift across the Alps. Perez behind again on those mediums, then Ricciardo, Leclerc, Norris there on the hard tire compound, running the more favored strategy amongst the AI, as Perez looks to stick it around the outside. And leading into turn 7, he will be able to pull it off. Much faster car, also on fresher tires, I believe, as well. Pierre Gasly out of the session. Surely not another safety car. You can see his car stranded there on the exit of turn 5. Doesn't seem like it will be called though. And in fact, it won't. Now on to lap 21. The conditions worsening, and the call has been made that we will pit now onto the intermediate tires. And I believe I was going in a little bit blind here. I wasn't totally convinced as to whether or not the team actually called me in from memory. But nonetheless, seeing cars behind entering as well does give me a bit of confidence that we have now made the correct decision. We'll see, though, if the team can do a nice clean pit stop. For the most part, they have been error-free. And once more, it'll be another clean stop. 2.7 seconds. So really good work there from the team. As we now exit into position 4. Leclerc, Verstappen, still on the slicks. Leclerc actually straight ahead, only 2 seconds on the mediums. Surely he won't try and stick it out on that compound. That would be insane. But onto lap 23 now. He is sticking to the mediums. Perez as well. He, though, pits as Verstappen gets us down the inside. So a lot to juggle at the moment. And once more, that Red Bull, just with superior traction and superior drive, will be able to extend that gap ahead of us. And we might now be under threat from Ocon behind in the Alpine. But of course, at this point onwards, any points we can get would be very, very valuable. Lap 26 now. Leclerc still on the mediums, battling with Verstappen. We haven't really been able to find much of that gap back, but if those two continue to scrap at it, we should be able to chip away a second or maybe even two side by side through the hairpin. We trail, not much in the way of battery remaining though, as Yuki Tsunoda is out of the race, stranded at turn 9, the second last corner. And almost losing count now of how many safety cars there's been in this race. But the track now is beginning to dry, and by the end of the safety car period, it should be slick conditions. So we duck into the pits. And we're going to actually jump here onto the soft tyre compound. The reason being, we're going to be under the safety car for a couple of laps, and that should mean that with only, let's say, 7-8 laps of green flag running, the soft should actually be in a good position. And we could try and use the softer compound to be aggressive on this restart. We know how good that final corner strategy has been, getting a good exit, trying to find an overtake. And more critically from this point onwards, then being able to actually defend that position. Anyway, we try and line up Verstappen here as we resume racing on lap 29, and the exit actually not too bad at all. We show the nose, but we're just a little bit too far back to commit to an overtake. Don't want to do anything too risky here. As I say that, we go wide though. Yellow floor damage now onto that diffuser as well, I believe. So rear downforce and the ground effect overall is going to be compromised. We'll see, though, if you still have some pace to stick with these runners up ahead. We do have Sainz behind, though, in the Ferrari, leaders in the Constructors' Championship. So I'm expecting him to be very, very racy and pacey behind, and could be quite scary. But it seems like the restart overall has actually been okay. Not getting swamped. And even with that damage, not too much slower than those up ahead. Again, probably banking on the AI to battle a little bit here. And I'm assuming Verstappen's very, very pacey here at Red Bull's home race. Down the inside of Russell. That's very aggressive. Now into the final corner, still side by side. And we get a fantastic run onto Verstappen. No DRS as it hasn't been activated yet, but we do have overtake. Decent amount of battery left. Verstappen still down the inside. We try and line up the switchback, but he loses a bit of speed and forces us into the outside. Nonetheless, though, exit okay. Now up into 8th gear. We show the dummy a little bit there. Down the inside. We don't make it 3 wide, though. A little bit too risky, and unfortunately under braking, we actually follow Russell there, locking up, going wide onto the Aramco sponsorship. Re-entering now into position 8. So a little bit of a disaster there, but we are keen to get Magnussen back here, and we are going to dive bomb him a little bit heading into the 4th corner. And just like real life, you can't hold it around the outside there, so we get that position back. Sainz has benefited probably the most from that. He's snuck through into position 5. Moving on to lap 32 though, and we're still pressuring Russell. Not much battery though, so we'll see what we can do. He loses a lot of traction though, exiting the 1st corner. And on the run up to the hairpin, we do have the advantage. Mercedes, though, will fight back, even though we have overtake activated, even though we have DRS. The Mercedes is so much faster in a straight line as Sainz Verstappen goes slow. Meanwhile, we do get that overtake completed, and we are back into position 6. So a lot happening in the final stages of this Grand Prix. Now, one thing as well that I haven't noted, I believe it came around this time, we're actually at threat of a mechanical failure right now. The team told us that they were investigating something wrong with the car. We also had that in the sprint from memory as well. So I was very stressed at this point in time. I do not want to lose the points that we have in this position due to a random mechanical fault. That would be incredibly unfortunate. So we just have to cross our fingers and hope that doesn't happen. And at the moment we are running away a little bit from Russell, so we can breathe a sigh of relief, at least from that pressure. Verstappen's signs up ahead still squabbling a little bit as we move on now to lap 33. Signs well and truly getting that move done, but Verstappen perhaps got damage. Verstappen into the pits with only a couple of laps to go, promoting us into position 5 at the Austrian Grand Prix. And now into the final lap, we've been able to hold that, but Magnussen pressuring here side by side once more into turn 4, but he can't hold the outside, didn't learn from his earlier attempts. And now it's all about just positioning the car as wide as possible. Do not allow this Haas back through. The gap only 2 tenths now through corners 7 and now 8 on the run up to 9. Not much battery left, but it should be enough to hold on. Charles Leclerc wins the race as we round the second last corner, keeping it inside the bounds of the track, flicking it through turn 10. And as we cross the line, that will be position 5 and our first big chunk of points this year. And that was an absolutely insane weekend from start to finish. Everything went our way and we made the absolute most of it.
That's a fantastic performance from Ferrari. It hardly looked in doubt. Well, Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today, but what set them apart from the rest?
Taking care of the car was absolutely vital today. It's been obvious all weekend that the pace was there, but look at the attrition rate we've had. They would have been very concerned about any minor anomaly towards the latter stages of this Grand Prix.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today and a stunning win for Ferrari. So let's review the drivers' standings. Charles Leclerc, currently leading the championship standings, extends his lead even further with this result. Well, after an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Charles Leclerc showed exactly how to manage yourself out on the track today. He was almost flawless out there. Incredible stuff.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Ferrari continue to extend the gap at the top of the table. Another team that excelled today were Williams, who make further progress up the table. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.